the Regional Historic Grants Program, and you'll find it at 33 on your agenda.
Happy to move this, Mr. Chair.
I have a move in Councillor
Seconder.
Newman and a second in Councillor Fletcher, and I'll just... Fran Hayton is with us. Fran, hi. No, it's not. Is it Mary?
Mary.
Mary is going to, and Mary, we'll take the report and the attachments. There are 2 attachments. We'll take them as read. Is there anything you would like to add at this time?
I have no additional comments. I'm just happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Watson and Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question about one of the applications here, the Timuri Cemetery headstone. I'm familiar with that site, and I know that it's so often used by a lot of school groups going to Timuri and part of a wider cultural program. They asked for 11,000 and we've agreed to 2,000. Does that impact, it seems to be quite a gulf there, will that impact on their ability to carry out the restoration as they would like to?
So there were 2 graves as part of that application. So the amount allocated there is for 1 grave, so that covers the cost of 1 grave. They also applied to the local board, and that project was supported as well, but the decision hasn't been made yet.
So they should have some additional funding, hopefully coming from the local. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. I want to start by saying congratulations. I don't say that very often on these kind of grant rounds, so this is wonderful, gives us the information. But a couple of questions on number 3 and number 6. Both of those projects are not historic, not categorised as historic heritage places as per the unitary plan, whereas all the others are. So can you just probably give me a little bit more on those 2? As to the reasoning. The others I get completely, but
Yes, that was number 3 and number 6.
Yep. At the Helensville District Health Trust. So what we're doing here is we are making a contribution towards the design stages of the house restoration.
Yes, so that one is a scheduled historic heritage place.
It is?
Yeah, yep, it's the Alison Mackenzie House. It's a Category B historic heritage place.
Right, that doesn't say that in the notes.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. That's
Yep.
great. That's all right.
No-
And the Pitt Street Methodist, is that a scheduled?
Number 6, yes, that's scheduled as well. So the Pitt Street Methodist Trust was the applicant, and then the Pitt Street buildings, 211 to 235 K Road is scheduled as well.
Okay, you just put it for all the others, but you haven't put it for those 2.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions asked.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. At the agenda run-through, members, I did ask why this report was here, because I think it's quite procedural. And I just want to ask Mr. Kimpton to give us an idea of what the cost is of writing this report. Remember, we're just looking at an allocation of 80,000, and I'm being told the writing of this report and all, this is just the final stage, can be as much as 3,000 to 5,000. And I'm just wondering whether that's a good use of our money, bringing this to our procedural signing off.
Good question,
So
Mr. Chair.
I've raised this, and I wouldn't mind, I'll hear from Mr. Kimpton first, but he will confirm the reason why it's here, but I'm just wondering if there's a willingness to review the reason. Mr. Kimpton first.
Thank you, Chair. Look, so the question was raised at the pre-agenda run-through as to why a grants program allocation such as this comes for review to a full committee. And there will be a set of reasons for that in delegations. The question that's really before us is there a more cost-efficient and effective way of ensuring quality decision-making, but through delegation directly to staff? One of those factors that you would want to consider is the cost of bringing a report into this committee, and whether this is the sort of way that you should be spending your governance debate and timing. And is there a more effective way of dealing with it through delegation directly to staff? So we're happy to have a look at that, but I would have, Councillor Davey just asked me briefly for my view on what a report would take, cost to, for a committee like this, and I look at it, including the attachments, and you'd have no change out of 5,000, is my view. By the time you've tabulated it, staff spent their time, it's been through the appropriate reviews. So that would be an indication without any analysis, but it's probably a fair one.
Any feedback on that, members? Councillor Watson.
So that calculation of cost is based on attributing a value to staff time, an hourly rate, is it?
Just keep in mind, Councillor Watson, that I haven't asked the two staff over here how much time they've spent, but I've just made an assessment of what that staff time would be, and yes, there is a real dollar value to that.
Okay, and this has been sort of brought up before in the term of the last council, where there was some ridiculous amount of money that was getting attributed to the cost of running one of these meetings, and basically it comes down to, in 95% of the time, attributing a value to the staff time and totting that all up. Well, unless the staff are not going to get paid outside of that time, it's a largely false exercise in terms of attributing a cost, in my view. People are employed by the Auckland Council, they're doing work of one sort or another. What they're getting paid, they get paid anyway, so to kind of attribute costs, I find, is a little bit misleading in those circumstances.
I'd like to have Mr. Kimder respond to that, please.
If there was an unlimited supply, then I could agree with that. But I think it's very important as governors that you place a value on staff time, particularly as you're asking for greater efficiency and productivity, you're controlling your labour costs, and we're trying to deal with growth in the city at the same time. So you can't have it both ways, is my advice. You do need to place real value on staff time so that you understand how best to apportion that time across the range of priorities that you have.
Councillor Fletcher.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To a degree, I strongly support this in terms of reviewing whether or not these sort of reports should be coming to your committee. I don't think we should be getting in the business of micromanaging these types of things, but I would suggest that we need to spend more time looking and evaluating the criteria that we're setting for these grants. So from a governance perspective, I totally support what Mr. Kimpton is saying, but I don't know that we always do adequate research in terms of the criteria that we're establishing. That is the work that the officers will work from. If we're unhappy with the criteria, we should change the criteria. But may I say that it is a thankless task to try and work your way through these applications, and I think the staff have done a commendable job, but it certainly requires us perhaps to have a workshop at some stage looking at not just this set of grants but a whole range, and say have we actually got a handle on those things that we're seeking to achieve with the criteria.
Yeah, good points. Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
I've got a question and a comment, if I may, Mr. Chair. So my first question to Mr. Kimpton is, are you suggesting that the governing body then do not have grant allocations for anything?
I'm not suggesting anything, thank you, Councillor Simpson. It was just merely a question, is there a case for delegating this to staff? I've not even looked at that as an issue, and my recommendation is that we take it offline, we have a look at it, because there's a balance of issues to be considered, including the staff time and cost, and then come back to you with our advice. But we haven't formed that advice yet.
Right. So my comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, is that in the essence of openness and transparency, I think this report is vital for those who have applied and those who have been unsuccessful and successful, because not only does it explain the amount and why, it gives just transparency for everybody, and I think it's important. I think it's important. The report is really good. We have spent some time, and I'll hold my hand up. We've spent some time in a workshop and other times refining these kind of reports so they do reflect all the things that we believe as governors that the community needs to understand and see in a report. And this does that, and I absolutely commend you, as I said before, and the way you've put this together. It tells you what it is, what they applied for, why we're, giving a little bit of what we're giving and what it's for. And I would hate not to have to see that on public record.
Thank you, and it could still be on public record, but it may not need to come to a formal meeting.
For adoption.
And there are other ways to look at this. Maybe
Still have
we
transparency.
can workshop this along the lines that Councillor Fletcher's outlining, and drawing our attention to criteria setting, and the parameters for funding. I also note that it's actually not a big fund, it's 80,000. I'd actually like to
Our
know at
funds
the
are big.
workshop just how much we are spending looking at the allocation of 80,000.
Well, none of them are big. Look at Councillor Casey's committee too.
Okay,
It's not a
well,
big amount of money.
let's not debate it further now. So it's moved and seconded. Final comment or question, Councillor Wayne Walker.
Sure. I just want to add to the conversation about staff time. As far as a report is concerned, I would make the assumption that irrespective of whether it was delegated or not, there is still a report. The report considers the criteria, the background. It wouldn't be any different to what we're reading now. Having said that, in an instance where you're not talking about something particularly big, surely it's more efficient not to have a workshop and it come directly to here. Because if you have a workshop, then we're going through the same thing twice. And in a number of instances, that's not very productive. And I think that we've got enough time to consider this now. It's not a big deal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And the workshop was for a different purpose, I think, to the one that
To
you
set
were
objectives.
explaining. Let's leave it there. We'll allow the staff. Mary, thank you for your work here. Fran, thanks for your work. Really appreciated. And thank you, Mr. Kimpton, for the explanations. It's moved to Councillor Newman, seconded Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried.